So Joshua Foreman for 7 likes. Hi, Jonathan. It seems a mark of the classical world to think of up as good and down as bad, but the ancient world seems to think of inside as good and outside as bad. The second day of creation in Genesis 1, the waters above and the waters below both become mutual extremes of outside, whereas the expanse inside the waters become the mountain and garden of God's presence with man. My question, cosmologically speaking, is it more biblical to think of in and out and more Gnostic to think of up and down? So no, it's both. Like both are fine. Both are reflections of each other. Ultimately, they're not exactly the same, but they're definitely related. Sometimes it can just be the same. Sometimes inside and out and up and down can be the same, but sometimes they're differentiated for different regions. Sometimes in and out has to do with a particularization. It's like the center of something, which is the identity of a particular sphere, and then how it lays itself out. But then you can stretch that out into a pyramid, and then it often makes sense as well. But I would say that in the Bible and in scriptural symbolism, there really is a duality to the symbolism. There really is a way in which up, you could say that generally up is good, down is dangerous, down is bad, but not always. And then sometimes up is bad, and sometimes center is bad and periphery is good. What you have to do is, this is something I've talked about quite a few times, which is just the polyvalence of symbolism. I talked about it recently in the video on the Leviathan. And so, for example, like I'll give you an example of when up is bad. So tyranny is bad. When the Pharaoh is up, then that's a problem. An image of bad up that you see in scripture is often the image of birds that come and take, from below. So the idea of a raptor, that comes and takes things from the earth and kind of pulls them out of reality. Often in that case, it's bad. The same thing with the center. So when the center becomes too hard, or when the center becomes too closed off, then the center becomes bad. This idea of the hardened heart of the Pharaoh is one of them, but there are a few other examples. And then sometimes the outside is good because the outside can also be an opportunity for renewal. Like there are stories in scripture where the strange woman is bad and the strange woman will take your seed away, but there are also places where that the strange woman is good. Ruth, thank you, Samuel Ramalera. Ruth, yes, the story of Ruth is an example where the outside is good. And then sometimes it depends on the point of view, right? So for example, another example where the outside becomes good and the inside becomes bad is in the story of Esther, of course, which has to do with the end of the world and a kind of inversion that happens at the end. But there is an example where the king his own people are lying to him and trying to betray the stranger. And then the stranger becomes a mechanism for an inversion, where the people that were close to the king, represented the inside, are now hung, and the strangers are elevated. There is an example of that, and there are plenty of examples of that. But you just have to understand what they are, and what they're doing in the story. That's the way to think about it. So.